The events began on April 8, 1974, in Moscow. As he lay dying, Wolf Messing handed his nurse a sealed envelope with instructions to hide it only in 2025 and deliver it to the head of state. He assured her that this was his most important message and entrusted its delivery to someone at the institute who knew how to handle it. 51 years later, a group of historians led by Professor Melnikov, working in the former Secret Service archives at Lubyanka, discovered classified materials from Department S. The Operation 2026 folder contained interrogation transcripts from 1953, in which Messing predicted a global event in 2026 that would affect Russia. Further searches uncovered an even more classified dossier, which Beria ordered destroyed but which survived. It contained evidence of a secret meeting between Messing and Stalin in April 1944. According to the transcript, Messing predicted the collapse of the USSR, the conflict of 2022, and the emergence of a strong leader who would reunite the country. The culmination of the discovery was a copy of that very letter from 2025. The recording explained that when Stalin asked about the future in 80 years, Messing predicted the arrival of a man from the security forces. When asked about the successor's surname, he hinted, the first letter coincided with the surname of a poet disliked by the leader, the author who wrote about Peter the Great. Pushkin. Stalin repeated, but immediately dismissed this possibility, as he respected the poet. Who then? Messing did not elaborate, moving on to the main point. In 2026, an event will occur that will change world history. Russia is assigned a central role, but the path to it lies through a severe conflict with the West and a new type of war. After hearing this, Stalin asked about his own role. Messing insisted on writing a special message for his future successor, a warning about the three temptations of power. The conversation lasted 4 hours. Beria later confiscated the transcript for destruction, but a copy survived thanks to Marshal Zhukov. To understand the nature of these predictions, researchers turned to the ruler's biography. According to archival data, Messing, born in 1899, already met Einstein in his youth, who described his abilities as a challenge to science. Documents from 2010 in German archives confirmed that he predicted the fall of the Reich even before the war. And testimony from the Polish underground reveals details of his escape from the Gestapo. Hypnosis induced guards to see Himmler himself among their captives. In the Soviet Union, scientific study of the phenomenon began after 1952. The project was led by neuropsychologist Alexander Luria. The results were classified for half a century. Messing's brain operated at an abnormal rate of 42 Hz, which is associated with an altered state of consciousness. Moreover, a mathematical analysis of his predictions conducted in 1961 showed that Messing's vision was systematic and consistent. Pravitz himself claimed to see the year 2026 most clearly. It appears he deliberately encrypted information about this period, dividing it into fragments that researchers are only now piecing together on the eve of the predicted events. The Iranian Institute of History's file on the phenomenon of Messing contains over 3,000 confirmed facts, but some are simply disconcerting in their accuracy. For example, on April 5, 1945, in the House of Unions, Pravitz uttered the fateful words, "The father of nations will pass away in early spring, when the first willow blossoms. This will happen 8 winters after our victory." The prophecy came true with frightening accuracy. Stalin died on April 5, 1953, exactly 8 years later. No less astonishing was the prediction made in 1957 within the Academy of Sciences and preserved in the papers of academician Keldysh. Messing asserted, "In 4 years, a simple Russian boy with an open smile will be the first to see the Earth from space. The world will know his name in 108 minutes. That's exactly how long the flight will last." On April 12, 1961, Yuri Gagarin, a native of the village of Klashino, made these words come true. However, the most terrifying prophecy seemed to come from 1965. The writer Konstantin Simonov wrote with bewilderment at the time that Messing raved about the disintegration of a great country in 26 years. Without a shot fired on the last night of the year, the red flag would be lowered, and the republics would scatter like frightened children. Skeptics twirled their fingers at their temples, but in December 1991, the Soviet Union truly ceased to exist. Messing also chanted the mundane details of the future. A 1970 entry was found in Leonid Yutsov's archive, in which a telepath advised the singer to save dollars, predicting a rate of 1,000 rubles per unit in 20 years. And again, he was right. In the early 1990s, the ruble collapsed. A 1972 diary entry by Eldar Ryazanov holds a special place. Messing described a ruler who would emerge at the turn of the century. "A Leningrader who served in Germany and speaks German," he said. He will rule longer than anyone after Stalin and will reclaim lost lands. If Messing was right about the past, then his vision of 2026 took on ominous weight. The answer lay in Zavadov's secret meeting with Brezhnev in November 1973. The General Secretary's bodyguard recalled that Leonid Ilyich left the magician's office visibly upset, demanded cognac, and ordered him to hide a certain envelope for the country's leader in 2025. The General Secretary's aide, Alexander Vagentov, lifted the veil of secrecy on that conversation in his notes. Messing warned against sending troops into Afghanistan, predicted a series of deaths among general secretaries, and the rise of a marked leader who would destroy the Union. But the climax came when he revealed the name of the one who would lead Russia in 2026. Upon hearing the name, Brezhnev turned pale. "It can't be. I know him. He's just an ordinary KGB major from Leningrad. He's the one who will receive my final message," Messing confirmed. "And he's the one who will make the choice that will determine the fate of humanity." Leonid Ilyich demanded details about the fateful year 2026. After a long silence, Messing told Kai Kane every word. 3 events will upend the world. First, the fall of the Iron Eagle. America will face a catastrophe that will end its status as hegemon. Second, the rise of the Northern Dragon. A new great alliance between Russia and the East. And third, the General Secretary ignored. "The third is intended only for whoever is at the helm at that hour," the ruler snapped. Under pressure from Brezhnev, Messing scribbled a few lines on a piece of paper. After reading them, the General Secretary jumped up, shocked. "This is impossible. Where did it come from?" "I see it as clearly as I see you," the magician replied calmly. "The sign will be the Northern Lights over Moscow in August 2026. The mysterious note would have disappeared forever if not for an accident that Messing probably also foresaw. Klavdia Petrovna Morozova, an invisible member of the Central Committee's technical staff who had worked there for 32 years, rescued the crumpled piece of paper from Brezhnev's wastebasket. It was only in 2024, at the age of 93, that she handed over the relic to journalists. The text read, "The third event is the discovery of the nature of time and consciousness. Russia will master the technology that humanity has dreamed of for centuries. Kozyrev and Kazanachev have the key. Kozyrev and Kazanachev have the key. Look for a laboratory near Novosibirsk. Latitude 54. These words echoed other voices from the past. Joseph Kobzon in 2010 recalled the words of a medium, "You will see the greatness of Russia, but first a test." August 2026. A glow in the sky and 3 days that change everything. In the diaries of Professor Luria, found in 2020, a diagram of a triangle of power was discovered: Moscow, Novosibirsk, and an unnamed point in the Arctic, where, as it turned out, the ghost base was located. Even in the poems of Bella Akmadulina, encrypted lines of missing were found, about the falling iron bird and the merging of the North and the East. All these scattered fragments were only pieces of the puzzle. The main answer was kept in an envelope whose path to the addressee turned into a detective story lasting half a century. It was not a chain of coincidences, but the manifestation of a higher pattern. Fulfilling Messing's last will, the envelope was taken by Mikhail Terentiev, an employee of the Institute of the Brain. He kept the secret until 1985, until on his deathbed he passed the relic on to his student, neurophysiologist Andrei Savleev. In 1999, you will learn the name. Pass this on to the new ruler, the dying man bequeathed. Savleev thought this was nonsense, but he fulfilled the request. In 1991, the scientist emigrated to Germany, and the trace of the message could have been lost forever. But the event had other plans. In 1998, at a conference in Munich, Savleev ran into General Korzhakov, Yeltsin's former bodyguard. "I have something that is intended for the future president," the scientist said, showing the envelope. On the yellowed, the paper contained a frightening postscript. "If a native of the city on the Neva with the initials VVP comes to power before 2025, hand it over immediately." On December 31, 1999, when Boris Yeltsin named his successor, the prophecy began to come true. In April 2001, the envelope was opened in the Kremlin. Inside were 2 letters. One for immediate reading, the second sealed until 2025. The first message read like a guide to the future. Addressing the one who will resurrect Russia from the ashes, Messienko described the coming milestones. 2004, a strike on children in the Caucasus in September. The Beslan tragedy united the nation, as the magician predicted. 2007, a challenge to the unipolar world in a city on the Isar River. Putin's famous Munich speech. 2008, a small 5-day war in the south, demonstrating the return of Russia's strength. 2014. The Great Return of the Two Seas Peninsula. Mesick even specified the date, April 18, predicting a bloodless transition and a long Cold War with the West. The letter concluded with a warning about the year of 3-2s, 2022. April's decision will determine the fate of 2026, the text read. Everything came true with incredible precision. Now that the second seal has finally been broken, the world waits in anticipation. What does the second part of the prophecy conceal? The solution has arrived. Messing saw history not in fragments, but as a single canvas. Back in 1970, speaking with Orientalists, he predicted not an ideological dispute, but a battle of civilizations in the middle of the next century. Then he mentioned a mysterious steel bridge. The meaning of the metaphor was revealed only in 2023. These are new transport arteries, the Silk Road, and pipelines through Russia that will break the back of the unipolar world. In 1968, at the peak of the Sino-Soviet conflict, the ruler reassured, "Don't be afraid of the dragon." In the new century, he will stand back to back with the bear. And in 1974, he spoke bitterly of the tragedy of a fraternal people. Enmity will come, lands will go, but they will return. Odessa, my mother, will be the last to return. The world of 2026, as envisioned by Messing, stood on 3 pillars: a Eurasian Union from Lisbon to Vladivostok, China as the world's factory, and a fading West, where the eagle will lose its wings. But the main thing was the prophecy of Russia's technological breakthrough. Doors to a new reality. In the Kremlin, in tense silence, the second envelope was opened. The president, security officials, and physicists witnessed. A letter, a map with 3 dots, and another sealed package were removed from the safe. The message, addressed to Vladimir Vladimirovich, read, "The hour has struck. 2026 is a turning point." The first sign, May 2026. The collapse of the U.S. financial system in 72 hours, starting with a single bank. The dollar will depreciate tenfold, marking the end of an era. The second sign, August 2026. An unnatural northern lights over Moscow that will last for 3 nights. This is not a whim of nature, but the result of an experiment that changes the very essence of our world. Upon reading the name of the Looking Glass project, associated with a laboratory near Novosibirsk, academician Sergei Kopitsa Jr., who was present at the autopsy, turned pale. "It's impossible," he whispered. "This project was top secret back in the USSR. How could Missing know?" The map enclosed in the envelope only intensified the shock. 3 dots, Moscow, Novosibirsk, and coordinates on the Severnaya Zemlya archipelago. 74 degrees 30 minutes target, 90 degrees distant. Formed a perfect triangle. The note on the back read, "When these points are connected by an energy bridge, a portal will open. This is the key to the eternal energy and wisdom of the ancients." They decided not to open the third packet until the first events began, but the end of the main letter sounded like an alarm. Messing warned, in November 2026, the world government will offer a deal, power in exchange for technology. "Reject them," the ruler implored. "Russia must become a beacon, not a warden in a global prison." The fate of the millennium will be decided in 3 days in August. Why August? The answer was found in the archives of the Institute of the Brain, where the joint calculations of Messing and astrophysicist Nikolai Kozyrev were stored. The scientist's diaries from 1972 spoke of a parade of planets and the alignment of the Earth with the center of the galaxy in August 2026, events that occur once every 26,000 years, the last witness of which was Atlantis. Science and mysticism were intertwined in the medium's papers. They contained translations of Tibetan scrolls received from Beriat Clam. The Iron Bird will fall, the collapse of the United States. The northern flame will light up over the south, a radiance over Moscow. And 3 fires will merge, a triangle of power, opening the gates of Shambhala. The monk Abel from 1800, predicting a cold war without war, a gatherer of lands, and fire from heaven, bestowing the secret of secrets. The technological basis of the prediction was confirmed by physicist Pyotr Goriev. In Missing's diagrams, he recognized a powerful torsion field generator, capable of causing artificial aurora borealis and connecting to the Earth's information field. And in 2024, Professor Trafimov confirmed, a device that bends space and time is indeed operating near Novosibirsk, continuing Kozyrev's ideas. The puzzle was coming together. August 2026 was not chosen by chance. The solution lay in Missing's own calculations. He calculated a perfect storm, a parade of planets, a minimum of solar activity, and the alignment of the Earth with the center of the galaxy. This cosmic coincidence opens a unique window of opportunity lasting only 72 hours. 3 days, granted once every 26,000 years, Russia must be ready, the ruler adjured. A picture of the future was emerging from disparate fragments. The first act is the fall of the Iron Eagle. Back in 1973, an article by Nekhayev V. M. Messing, pseudonym for Messing, was published in a closed journal under the title Scenario for the Collapse of the Dollar. Declassified in 2024, it named the exact time of the beginning of the end, May 15, 2026, 2:23 p.m. New York time. The trigger will be the bankruptcy of the bank named after one of the founding fathers of the United States. The Fed's attempt to put out the fire with trillions will only finish off the system. The empire will disintegrate into the states, plunging into chaos, only to be reborn a decade later as an ordinary country, cured of delusions of grandeur. The second act. Rise of the Northern Dragon. July 2026. On the ruins of the old world, a true Eurasian Union will arise from Lisbon to Beijing. A currency backed by gold and a single defense shield will unite not only Russia, China, and India, but also seemingly incredible allies, Germany, France, Italy. Europe, realizing the demise of NATO, will make the only right decision, to be with Russia. The third act is a secret behind 7 seals. When the first waves of the crisis hit America in May 2025, the special package was opened. What was inside staggered the imagination. Messing wrote, August 23, 2026, 21:33 Moscow time contact. It was not about aliens, but about the activation of an ancient artifact on the Severnaya Zemlya archipelago. The structure, dormant for 26,000 years under the ice, will awaken with the confluence of 3 factors: the alignment of the planets, the work of the Novosibirsk looking glass, and the presence of the Chosen One. Messing described it in detail. He was born in 1999 into a military family. On his left shoulder is a birthmark in the shape of a star. Special forces found it. Artyom Zvezdin, a 27-year-old physicist from Moscow State University with a unique genome, did not even suspect his missions. Humanity will receive the technology of the gods, Messing warned. But this is a gift with a catch. The West will fall, for it is spiritually empty. Russia, having passed through the crucible of suffering, is ready to accept this knowledge. Meanwhile, in the archives, cryptographers puzzled over the keys to survival, digital codes that, as it turned out, were scattered throughout the manuscripts of the ruler. The secret of the cipher was revealed by cryptography professor Viktor Shpolsky. It turned out that Messing used ancient Kabbalistic numerology, where each number is multilayered. Decryption turned into a survival manual. The 2026 calendar became a map of a minefield. May 15th, the beginning of the end. Get rid of pieces of paper with portraits of presidents 3 days before, warned the cipher. July 23rd, day of great decisions. Signing of a new union. August 20th to 23rd. Time of silence. 3 days of isolation, which are best spent in places of power. Messing marked the map of Russia with the colors of safety. Green zones, arcs of salvation. Altai Beluga, Ural Arkham, Karelian Valum, Baikal Alkan, and Crimean Apatry. Neutral cities in central Russia were marked in yellow, and places best avoided in August were marked in red. Geopolitical solitaire also took an unexpected turn. The union of the dragon and the bear of China and Russia was predicted for 1,000 years. Argentina became a surprise wild card. The country at the edge of the world, having preserved its gold, will help build a new system, relying on the Russian community in Buenos Aires. Israel's fate is described with bitterness. Half the people will find a new home in Russia, the other half will remain to build a peaceful state without wars. But the most terrible threat is within. In May, amid the roar of the collapsing dollar, a fifth column will attempt to seize power. No mercy, act instantly, the ruler bequeathed to the secret services. The economic collapse of the West was planned minute by minute in a 1971 notebook. Joint calculations with economist Leontiev. On May 15, 2026, the bankruptcy of Hamilton Bank 1423 sets off a chain reaction. That evening, the Federal Reserve, in a panic, prints trillions, but this only fans the fire. On the morning of May 16, the dollar turns into a 10-cent piece of paper. It is replaced by the Altin, the currency of the Eurasian Bank headquartered in Yekaterinburg. This is not paper, but real value: 40% gold, 30% energy, 20% rare metals, 10% food. Russia, having accumulated 15,000 tons of gold by this point, dictates the rules. After 3 months of chaos, an era of prosperity will arrive. Energy will become the new currency, and secret technologies discovered after the events of August will put the world in line to join the Tver of Russia. Innovations will transform the face of the country. Agriculture will triple its output, and factories will transition to a completely zero-waste cycle, restoring the environment. A transportation revolution will be achieved by 2030, when the first anti-gravity platforms take to the skies. Medicine will finally conquer cancer and old age itself, pushing life expectancy to 120. Education of the future will be akin to a miracle. Direct knowledge downloads to the brain and virtual game worlds will allow students to master a 10-year program in a year. But the foundation of everything will be energy. The launch of the Novosibirsk facility will give the world zero-point energy, infinite and virtually free. This will collapse the Western oil economy, but Russia will already have entered a golden age, which Missing called the Russian Renaissance. "I see Russia in 2030 as a blooming garden from the Baltic to the Pacific," wrote the ruler. "A country with a population of 200 million, with crystal clear air and abundance. A breakthrough in science will change our understanding of life and death. The brain will be recognized as a quantum receiver. They will learn to endure consciousness, making death only a transition to another state. The map of the country will change. By 2030, historical Rus will be reunited. Ukraine, Belarus, northern Kazakhstan, the Arctic Islands, and even Alaska, bought from the disintegrating United States, will voluntarily join the state. The population explosion will quadruple the birth rate. Large families will become the norm, provided with land and housing from the state. By the middle of the century, Russians will already be 500 million. The control center will shift to the geographic heart. Novosibirsk will become the new political capital. Moscow will remain the soul and culture. St. Petersburg will be the brain of science, Yekaterinburg, a financial hub, and Sevastopol, a sea shield. Spirituality and technology will merge. Orthodoxy will return to its roots, uniting believers without fanaticism. Art will learn to convey pure emotions. Music will become visible. Man will restore the language of communication with nature, reviving extinct views and climate control. Oak groves will rustle in Siberia, and the Arctic will blossom. And then the gaze will turn to the sky. A base on the moon by 2040 and cities on Mars by 2050. The contents of the special folder have leaked only in fragments, but they paint a picture of the greatest test of will. Messing warned the Russian leader of 3 temptations of power that will test his strength in 2026. The first temptation is May. On the ruins of the dollar system, an offer will be made to lead a world government. The price is the renunciation of sovereignty. This is a golden cage and a trap, the message read. Reject. The second temptation. And mouth. Activating an ancient artifact grants knowledge bordering on omnipotence. The temptation to use it for personal immortality will be great. But the covenant is simple. Power is a cross of service, not a throne of domination. The third temptation. November. An offer to divide the planet between China and Russia. Refuse it, wrote Messing. Russia is a bridge and a unifier, not a wall. The hour X is set for November 11th, 2026, 11:11. At that moment, the fate of the millennium will be decided. A choice between love and fear, unity and division. The letter also contains specific instructions. A successor must be prepared now. A man in uniform, a technocrat, a generation younger, with a surname beginning with the letter M. A council of sages consisting of 12 impeccable people, 6 scientists, 3 priests, and 3 military personnel will serve as support. In July, a triple alliance with India and China is to be signed, preserving Russia's role as elder brother. But the shadow of betrayal already looms. Messing warned of an assassination attempt in September 2026. A new poison, leaving no trace, and the hand of a man from the inner circle. Regarding the defeated West, the ruler bequeathed magnanimity, do not take revenge. Lend a helping hand when they fall. Only through suffering will Europe and America become true friends. The coming era will awaken paranormal gifts in people. To prevent them from becoming a weapon of a new tyranny, a special institution of control will be needed. But the main choice is existential. Humanity will stand at a crossroads. Soulless technotopia, destruction within a century, or spiritual evolution. Russia is obliged to choose the latter. And Missing encrypted the name of his successor in an acrostic, recorded in 1973 in the diary of the poet Andrei Voznesensky. The verse began with the line, "Russia preserves the wisdom of the ages." The name of the heir was hidden in the lines of the acrostic, recorded in 1973, The wisdom of the ages, the art of the righteous.